Hey there, welcome back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Some strange things are happening out there in internet Google land. So we were just going over with TC again for the third time, I think, what exactly he does for Unpub now that Daryl's handed over some of the responsibilities, I guess, to him as the right-hand man. So TC, just keep on going with that, and we'll jump in and we'll continue on the train of thought.
Hey, no problem. I was trying to give a little background of like what Daryl does behind the scenes because he's not going to say it too much. I don't. For me, just coming up with the event here, I'm just here to wrangle designers, talk to publishers, and make sure that they're getting their money in and doing what they need to do on the back end and getting their ads together. So that's what I've been doing on the back end. But just last year, Unpub had a Kickstarter. First time, raised over $8,000 for the event. Attracted some attention from some publishers that we haven't worked with before, and that's just awesome. And so now we've gone to the Baltimore Convention Center. It's a bigger place, and because of that, Daryl had to do things way in advance, pay a lot more money than previous years, and I don't know, just go a lot. I think Daryl now pretty much could get a job, kind of as an advisor to people trying to do these events, because man, a convention has a lot of stuff to do behind the scenes. I mean, you just have to be on the ball, just handling both just money, time management, getting people and volunteers, and whew, I mean, what I'm cutting out badges right now, and there's like, I don't know, there's a ton of volunteers that are going to be helping out with the event too. So just wrangling everybody together is just a huge thing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But
Definitely.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump in and just mention a big thank you to our viewers for tagging along with those technical difficulties already. We got some chatter started up again in YouTube. If you have questions for our guest, please feel free to either add them to the YouTube chat or send us a tweet. You can send it to Meeple Syrup, or you can hashtag Meeple Syrup, and we'll try to include those questions during the show. If not during the show, then we'll try to get to it during the after show. So with that said, Chris, I think you got a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It sounds like it is, a ton to organize and get going. I'm wondering if the website is helping, because when I was back in May, I registered on the site, and clearly the infrastructure is there to kind of like really help the process. I'm wondering if people are utilizing that, and if that's helping organize things.
Yeah, yes. I know the website's not perfect, and pretty much it's been just me trying to manage the website as well as the back end website. A lot of people don't realize it's actually two websites. Now it's actually three with the Unpub 5 website. But I've coded the entire admin back end. That was all hand coded by me. The front end I built in the admin Unpub 5 one. And so I know information gets out a little later than everyone kind of wants, myself included. And it's just because it's an undertaking. But this is the first time with Unpub 5. This is the first time where I've tried the whole delegating to get help, and I'm kind of really liking it.
Good, yeah.
I am nowhere near as stressed as I was last year. Last year, I was stressed to the very end. Like, people came here to hang out at my house on the final day as like an after party kind of thing, and I flat out passed out in the living room. It was sheer exhaustion, stress, just everything got to me, and that was it. I was done.
It's almost like a wedding.
Yeah, yeah, more or less. Except, for multiple days where, as a wedding, it's like as soon as it goes, like, okay, whatever happens, happens. But this is just, okay, what happened last time to what can I fix, tomorrow and such. But it's weird. I guess because more money's involved in everything, I'm a bit more concentrated with it. But yes, the websites help bring people in. We're still trying to work to improve the website. I plan on doing, and I've been talking with a few people like John Schultz to actually revamping the website. We want to bring in, so it's not just game designers and their games, but we also want to bring in like graphic designers and illustrators for games. So it
Nice.
kind of becomes more of not just, hey, here's a BGG of unpublished games, but hey, here's kind of a hub for everything an unpublished game designer wants. Or,
Nice.
because we're working with a partnership with like Meeple Source for custom bits and stuff like that. So it'll be kind of nice to kind of expand that and then have this website database that can give all of these tools to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's great.
that's the goal for 2016 on the website end.
I love it.
We
I love
did
it.
just, for anyone that uses an iPhone or an iOS device, we did just launch the first Unpub official app. So
Hey.
now you can actually do feedback forms directly on your app.
Gonna have to
Oh,
download
I
that.
see. Okay, so
I love it.
the Unpub attendees can use their iDevice to give feedback to the designers directly.
Yep. And
That's
this is
amazing.
just phase one that's released. We're going to be expanding that throughout the year to where designers can manage their own games, view their feedback on their phone, or even find local events happening nearby. But phase one was let's just get feedback so it's directly on your phone so you can do it straight through that. So
Yeah, that
That
sounds
sounds
great.
amazing. Yeah, that's fantastic. Which
and
kind
it's
of leads
free,
me
so
into
download it today.
yeah, download it today. So I'm going to jump to TC with an audience question. I have one from Lee McConnell, and he's wondering if you're going to kickstart future things, future conventions, or maybe even app development, things like that. And I want to mention, he said he appreciated the chance to support the event, even though he's not even attending, and he was excited about even just getting a few promos. But for him, he loved being part of it, being able to support. So is there any Kickstarter plans for the future of Unpub?
That's a better question for Daryl, but I think we're most likely going to have to do something in this sense to get more, I guess, more dollars for the next year too. We were hoping that a lot of the stuff that we did this year could help for next year, and at the moment, it looks as though we may need that extra push. So.
Yep.
Whatever happens, though, we really want to stress that it's not really like we want people to get involved, right? So, offering that opportunity, I like to hear that kind of feedback because at least you get a chance to. I mean, people are really annoyed when you say, "Hey, support our thing on Patreon or Kickstarter" all the time, and at least somebody's saying, "Hey, I actually like doing that," so I appreciate that. But still, I don't like acting. I don't like asking. So I really appreciate the support, and hopefully we can figure out a way that we don't have to do Kickstarter like as a continuous process of year in, year out. But at the same time, Kickstarter, it helps. It makes it so that it's easy and you can get that funding immediately and pay all those costs up front. So it's a huge boon, but I don't see it working for every single convention, right? So
Absolutely.
would like to get out of that cycle.
That makes sense. Totally makes sense. Maybe I'll bounce it back because you said that's a better question for Daryl, and maybe also describe why it was so helpful because I think ultimately people get it, but from all that you had to do, how did this make the event possible?
How did Kickstarter make the event possible?
Yeah.
It initially paid for the funding for the location, or at least a large chunk of it. We had to, reach out for some sponsorship to get some additional. I mean, because venue is only part of the fee. Then you have, event insurance. Then you have to worry about electric, telecommunications if you want to run that, and then printing and advertising. And there's so much more than just like, oh, here's a basic price for the convention. Yeah, I mean. Yes.
That's good. That's
like I'm trying to think of like another small, and not small. Okay. All right. Like BGGCon. In a perfect world, I want Unpub to end up being like BGGCon. When I first went there, I walked in. I was like, "This is what I want Unpub to be by Unpub 10. Like this is perfect. The way Aldi and all them have that ship running, it's amazing." and I'd love to talk to them this year about like what the price tag is and everything that they're rolling with that, because it's, even though it's in a hotel, they've got the whole nice intimacy thing, and it's just 100% board game focused, and it's just the perfect board game con in my opinion. And I just, yeah, there's a lot. So even though like TC saying like, oh, Daryl can help organize an event, like, not really. There's so much I want to learn, and I know I can make Unpub better, but the Kickstarter, truly, we couldn't have been where we're at without the Kickstarter campaign, and whether we continue that in the future is kind of up in the air. We are, with the Kickstarter that we had, like TC mentioned, it garnered more publisher attention.
Yeah.
And with that, more sponsorships and larger sponsorships than we've had in the years past that we kind of were excited to get, but we're kind of like, oh, okay. So does this put us in a different ball league now? Like, how does this work? And yeah, and I think next year it's going to be another little growth spurt. I think the rooms we have now at the Multipark Convention Center are great, but I think we can go larger just to get more space between tables and stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
No, that's great. I want to throw the disclaimer that Daryl does not know that Aldi is watching right now. So even though he's saying things about
awesome,
BG, good thing that you didn't smash him and say that BGG.
But I could smash him for. I could smash him for failing to thank me this year.
Oh. But on that note, let's change gears a little bit.
I understand all of that, so I'm not mashing anybody for anything.
This is pre-Unpub, so I'm even shocked that Daryl and TC are able to put together full sentences. But with that said, let's jump into some game design conversation. I'm going to pass it to Chris because I know he's got a question. Let's start talking about designing games.
Yeah, so pre-show we talked a little bit with you guys about some upcoming designs. TC, did you want to talk about anything you're working on, or maybe whatever that is? Are there any particular struggles that you're having with those designs in iteration or anything?
Well, right now, like, so for the Unpub 5 event, I'm bringing in two mainstays. One game that I was working on forever. There's like a club. It's called Club Zen, and it's a relaxation worker placement game, like at a resort. You're trying to become the most zen, relaxed person.
Okay.
But I just want to get feedback on that. The one that I'm working on that I'm trying to. Here's what my issue is. Right. I have this game called Don't Get Eated. Right. Initially, when I first brought it out, I mean like first playtest, I put it out in front of 8 people because it's like plays up to 9 players. So first playtest, 8 people. They were just like, "This is really good." It's like, "How long have you been working on it?" "This is my first playtest." They're like, "This is really, really good." Right? So here's the thing. As I've gone and I've iterated with it, right, over the last year and a few months, right?
Yep.
I keep getting I'll get good feedback from games, but I'll also get some hesitant feedback, right? That I didn't get necessarily at the beginning, right? And I know that there's something not there, and that's the problem that I'm having is, as I iterate, I get more fine-tuned, but I also lose a little bit of that energy from those first play tests where, man, I just had this really cool idea, people are really excited about it, but they know that things are wrong. So now that I've fixed a lot of the things that are wrong, right? Like, now it's not as exciting or crazy. So I'm trying to make sure that with the iterations that I'm making for Unpub, I bring back some of the fun that was originally there. And that's what I'm trying. That's my issue right now, is to recapture that initial excitement and not iterate it away to try to balance out. So how do you guys work around balancing a game but still making it, like, I don't know, just have that excitement level that you feel like, oh, anything could happen?
I'm having the same problem with one of my games, and the next time I play it, I'm going to try and go back to the initial set of rules and, like, rediscover what that energy was about, and then try to remove the other stuff around it, and just retain that cool energy and go in a completely different direction. But it's so challenging because, again, we do try to balance and we try to make sure that the rest of the concept holds up. But man, it can just bog it down so badly if you do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes you just got to be willing to get rid of a whole lot of stuff that you might have thought was cool, and that actually might be very cool, but may also sort of disconnect the audience from the initial intent. So right now, Jay and I are going through the design phase, or like multiple iterations of Godzilla, and we have some really cool ideas, and some of them are super interesting, but they just don't necessarily fit with the game we have in mind, or the game that people have in mind when they hear Godzilla. They think that it should feel like X, and we have this mechanic in there that might make it feel like X plus 1, and that's just a little too much towards some sort of, maybe mathematically balanced side. So we're trying to revisit it from a different perspective, and oftentimes that really means taking other people's perspectives into account more so than even our own when we hear that, oh, you know what, this wasn't fun. And the other thing that I like to focus on when we're in the iteration process and we're looking for that really fun part is listening to people at the table and really hearing what they're saying about how they feel. And because at the end of the day, our math, which is all game design really is a lot of times, is math, translates into an experience. And it's that's the difficult part, is how does this math translate into an experience, and figuring out that if you just take one away from that or two away from that, it translates into a whole different experience than it was in the beginning. So that's sort of where I'm at right now with that game, is listening to other people playing it, and whatever they say at the table kind of leans me in one direction or another in terms of pushing towards something mathematically. And so I don't know if that helps you at all, but that's kind of how you do it.
That's well said. It sounds like sometimes your gamer sense gets in the way of your game design sense.
Oh, 100%.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Sometimes you just need some more chaos, and you need casual people to play it and give you feedback, and not try and fix every balance issue.
Yeah, or even not casual players. So, like right now, we're getting very high-level Magic players to look at it in terms of how would they think about it from, game design, deck design, deck building, past the initial set that you get and things like that. So stuff that we don't think about as much because we're so focused on the initial design that other people are saying, yeah, well, if I was deck building, then this would happen. Oh, sure. Yeah, we got to think about that. Anyways, Daryl, I think you had a question to ask Daryl?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll just quickly mention on the iteration question, I hope we'll talk some more about it during the after show, because I'm thinking specifically of our episode with Eric Lang and Matt Leacock, where we had a really great conversation about they had opposing views on that. So during the after show, maybe we'll chat a little bit more about that. But I have to ask this question to Daryl, because we have a game. I don't even know if you're aware of this. There's some parallel design and some parallel naming, which I'm really excited about your game. But you have Bottom of the Ninth, and I have a game called Ninth Inning on BGG. And so I'm curious. Tell us a little bit about your game, Bottom of the Ninth.
Okay. Bottom of the Ninth is my next game's coming out March 1st on Kickstarter from Dice Ate Me Games. Plug. It's co-designed with my friend Mike Mullins, and it will also have a solo version designed by Richard Lanius. And it's a baseball game. Plays in about 5 minutes, and it's literally the bottom of the ninth inning. They're the home team, so therefore the team at bat. Sorry, the home team is like the worst baseball team in the league. So they're like the Expos. That's right, I said it.
Wow.
So like the Expos League.
The Nationals are amazing this year.
Nationals and Expos, two totally different things at this point. Yeah, and they're versus the Evil Empire, of course. And so more or less, it's the hitters are going to the home team's going to be at a disadvantage, but their only point is to score one run because somehow they've tied this game, and they just need to score one run to win it for home. Otherwise, if the pitcher gets 3 outs, it'll go into extra innings, and statistically, with their best batting lineup, they're going to win. So it's literally just trying to win the bottom of the 9th inning just to win it. It's a quick game. Actually, here we go. This is a prototype, so no, it does not come on a clipboard. But so that's the board right here.
Although that would be really super cool if it did.
Mhm.
More games need clipboards.
I know. This I had I came up with a score sheet logs, kind of like a baseball
Nice.
log.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
keep track of all the prototype games, like who's won, to make sure
That's
statistically
awesome.
everything balances.
Love it.
But so it's kind of a dice deduction, pressure luck game. Like I said, it's very quick. The entire game is literally the showdown between the pitcher and the batter. So the pitcher will choose with pitch tokens if he's throwing high and away or inside and out, and then the batter's trying to guess that, which will give mitigation to either side's dice. So obviously, if the batter can guess where the pitcher's throwing, he's going to have an advantage when he goes to swing. But on the other side, if the pitcher can, kind of outmaneuver him, the pitcher gets the advantage. And then we bring in ace pitches and traits and MVP abilities, and there's a whole base running aspect that's kind of a real-time dice thing. But one of the cool things is, and again, prototype, but so obviously there's cards for the players, but there's no deck. So what we're doing, and again, this is a prototype, but all the cards were actually going to be baseball cards. We're actually going to bring them on baseball card stock.
Oh, okay.
So we're kind of doing like the 1980s vintage look.
That's cool.
And the illustration is going to be done by Adam McIver. So I'm seeing a lot of his line art and stuff, and it's so cool. So I'm really excited. But yeah, that's March 1st. Dice Gaming Games Kickstarter.
That's cool.
Nice.
Looks fun.
Very cool.
If you come to Unpub, you may get a very exclusive, never to be reprinted promo for Bottom of the Ninth. That is very cool.
Very cool.
Maybe.
Plug. Maybe. Yes. So TC, back to you. So you have Don't Get Eated, and you have Xenon Profiteer coming up, correct?
That's right. That's right.
And do you have prototypes to show us? I know you're not at your own home, but do you have anything that you can show in front of the camera?
They're in your car, aren't they?
I wish I had stuff in front of me. I didn't know. I wasn't prepared.
It's all right. It's
Kinda
okay.
last- I have the boxes out in my car, but
That's okay. Can you tell us what was the design question you were trying to answer for each of those games, and how did you do it?
So Xenon. So we'll do Xenon Profiteer. So
Sure.
Xenon Profiteer is going to be the closer one for Kickstarter. Usually, like maybe early April, late March, something like that. And that's through Eagle Griffin. The Xenon Profiteer, it was kind of, how do I fully create a thematic game that is both that has the sensibility that I like, the Euro kind of sensibility, but is completely thematic, almost to a fault. And it was one of those weird kind of serendipitous moments where Ben Pinchback, I guess, said on Twitter, like, I just looked up the 54th element Xenon and read the entire Wikipedia page for it. That was really boring. And of course, I had to read the Wikipedia page for it, and I found it extremely boring. And that just, boring ideas to me just like spark these interesting thoughts, I guess. Just like the concept of like a medieval castle town or something for like a Euro game. I don't know why people even think that's a good idea, but they do it. And so Xenon Profiteer came out of the idea of just cryogenically distilling xenon from the air to fulfill contracts out in the real world. And you do this by kind of almost like that gold panning idea, right? Like
Right.
you have a deck, it has air that you bring into this deck, and you want to get only the xenon out of your deck. And so that just started all these crazy ideas, you know. So now instead of just having a system like a deck builder, you're taking things out of your deck to try to thin it all the time, which is my favorite part of deck builders. It's actually probably the only thing I like about deck builders anymore. And you actually can install cards in front of you to create your facility. So you're installing the cards, using them every turn. There's a constant economy. I don't know. It all falls together. And then quickly with Don't Get Eated, answering the kind of question I was answering was how succinct can I be in creating a strategic party game? And so this is me taking the ideas that I had from Viva Java, which is a 90-minute kind of party Euro, and condensing it down to 10 rounds, which hopefully by the end here it'll take you about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to play it with 9 players.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is just something, and then somebody's going to win, and there's going to be strategy during it. That's all I want. I want a game like that. That's games that appeal to me. So that's what I'm trying with Don't Get Eated, and hopefully I succeed, and hopefully it'll be awesome by the time it comes out.
Well, I like the title, so there you got that in your favor. That's pretty cool. Chris, you had some questions for Daryl?
Yeah, I want to switch it back. So, Daryl, I know you do design also. Do you feel that it makes you a better designer, or do you think that it can sometimes get in the way, especially in the early stages of game design? Do you think it helps or hinders the process early?
Wait, doing graphic design or game design?
Being a graphic designer, do you think that helps the game design process for you, or does it hurt it?
Personally, as of late, it's been hurting it because I've took on a lot of stuff and I haven't really had time to work on any of my own games. I have a couple games in mind that I need to get back to. One that I have to make sure prototypes look good before one else plays them.
Right.
It's very much work, and if it doesn't look good, I have to stop, redesign everything, put it back out. So I just need people to, when they play my prototypes, to be like, "Wow, this looks really good." And I also kind of find working with Unpub that a lot of publishers, when they see that someone has invested the time and art, it's like they kind of look at it and go, "Oh, well, that's a little bit less work than I like, if that or that I have to worry about getting, because maybe everything's kind of built in." So it's kind of a weird two-way street. So, yeah.
I find that you get player buy-in a little bit better when the design is there, when things are fleshed out.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the downside of prototyping. I mean, I've played some amazing games that literally just photocopy black and white paper, like no theme, no nothing, just text, and the games are great. And you're just like, if this had art, more people would be playing it and giving feedback. Whereas sometimes, you have playtesters that they're not snobbish, but they'll walk by and they're like, but look at this bright colored game over here.
Right.
They kind of turn a cheek, unfortunately. But yeah.
Cool.
TC, I had the pleasure of playing Viva Java, I want to say a month ago, and I played with 8 people, which is not a regular thing that you can do. Could you tell us a little bit about designing a game that could handle up to 8 people, and then also tell us a little bit about translating that game to a dice game?
Okay. So the key to designing an 8-player game, I don't know the actual answer, but I was really lucky. I guess I was really lucky to do Viva Java first, because without without that backbone of spending 3 years working on something that is, I don't know, to some people what seems to be a failed experiment, and to some people what seems to be like a great experiment. I learned a lot of what you should do and what you shouldn't do, even through just regular in production. But what I can say to this is, the biggest thing that you find when you're making a larger game is that you need a ringleader, you need a master, you need somebody who owns the game, who knows how to play, who can teach it to everybody else. Know that this is like, that makes it hard for like a strategic large player game. But the key is to just make sure that at least one person can, as much as you possibly can, hopefully the owner of the game, can understand and play the game at a higher level. Now, I think I made a little bit of mistakes with some fragile things that I can probably fix in a new edition with just some rules tweaks to make it so that everything is coded correctly. But at the same time, it's really tough to wrangle that many people, and that's going to be your biggest problem. So make sure that you have rules in place that allow for someone to be in control of that chaos, whatever it is. When I went to like Viva Java, the little game, right, like a dice game, it was so much easier. I mean, basically, I just was like, I played this Nizia game, Escape. I'm gonna steal that mechanic, and then I'm gonna make another game, right? So like it was, I really wanted to just take a classic. Hey, there it is. Chris has it. Chris is showing Escape. I don't know. Hey, Chris, do you actually like that game?
I've not played it. I'll be honest. I haven't tried it.
I don't actually like it. I don't like it, but
Right.
but I do appreciate when there's a mechanic that I like, and I love the King of the Hill mechanic, right? So, but taking it from bigger player count to a smaller player count was so much easier because I didn't have to worry about having a brewmaster. I just had to worry about the mechanics, and you can just really focus in when you have an idea. You can just, man, I already know the parameters. I already know what I did before, and once I figured out all my little King of the Hill mechanics, I was in. So, yeah,
I can speak to that.
experience.
I can speak to that a little bit. With Longshot is basically a party strategy game that plays 8, and you just choose one of 4 things on your turn. And I even had that printed on the game board in both corners, so that people that were like, "What? I'm playing the game." Okay, they can just read. Yeah, this is what you can do on your turn, and you're set. That was helpful.
There's Daryl playing Longshot.
Yes.
So we're about. Let me see what time it is. Oh yeah, we're about time to wrap up the main show, anyways. And of course, you guys are always welcome to join us on the after show. But in this period of time, we'd like to ask everybody who's on the guest panel, so that's Daryl and TC, we'd like to ask you guys a question, and usually it pertains to helping novice designers. And because we're going into Unpub 5 weekend, I wanted to actually focus that. And the question comes from one of our avid Twitterers and viewers, Suze425.
We love you!
Yeah, Suze! She wanted to know, let me read this correctly, do you provide guidance and tips and coaching to play testers on how to effectively provide feedback, or do you just have designers take it all in, all the good, the bad, the ugly? And so, to Daryl, how do you help new people who are coming to Unpub deal with feedback, getting it, receiving it, collecting it, etc., etc.? What do you got?
All right. Well, first of all, hi to Suzanne. She tweeted this awesome thing where she was in this porcelain kitty museum, and I challenged her to find a porcelain sea captain, and she did, and it was
Nice.
pretty epic. But anywho, pretty much designers take all the feedback. There's no filtering process with me because that's not fair. At least I don't find it fair. If someone is going to give you rude feedback, well then yes, I kind of want to know so I can either address it or just keep an eye out on it. But short of that, like good, bad feedback, it's kind of a relative term. It's weird because it could be feedback that's just scathing and very harsh, but there might be that one little nugget that is like really useful to you in it. Whereas someone can give really good feedback, and it's just, it kind of picks you up from that scathing one. So it's a weird balance, and for me or anybody to really censor the feedback kind of breaks down the process in a way that I'm kind of not comfortable with. So,
real quick, do you mean censor it, or do you mean like, I think understanding who is giving you that feedback and what kind of games maybe they like, but what do you mean by censor it exactly? I don't think I understand that.
I guess maybe I misunderstood the question. Like, if I read the feedback before I give it to the designers, and I'm saying I don't.
No. I was just asking, do you give them any tips? As feedback is really why they're there, right? At Unpub is to get feedback. Yes. But do you give them any tips on how to collect it, how to have a really successful session? That
good
kind
questions
of thing.
asked.
Yeah, questions asked. Anything?
Yeah, more or less, yes. With the playtesters, we have a sheet at the feedback stations,
right?
That are like, hey, be honest. You can do this anonymously, or you can do it with your name on it, before they can contact you for additional questions.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like we want them to be sincere. Otherwise, it's absolutely pointless. As for the designers, yes, I mean, we've had some coaching stuff. We're going to be doing that again. We have a designer day the day before Unpub. That's just for the designers and the publishers and sponsors. And there's going to be some things like that we're going to go over. But it's asking the right questions, as opposed to like, hey, what did you like in this game? Or, hey, did you like it? More like, so, did you have any issues in the gameplay? Or, so, what's one thing you think should be addressed? Just cut through the pat my back questions and get right to the answer you really want. That's like the biggest thing. If you want verbal feedback, that's the quickest way to do it. The other thing is get away from your family and friends. They're gonna love you to death, and if you put a game in front of them, 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna tell you that it's horrible. Like, they're not gonna go, this sucks. They're just gonna go, oh, it's okay. Yeah, you should keep working on it. Whereas, you play in front of some designers, like, they'll just tell you, like, yeah, you should probably abandon this one. So yeah, it's find people that'll tell it like it is, and that's why the Unpub's nice, because it brings it's strangers playing your games, so they don't care about your feelings, just about what they played.
That's good. TC, do you have any recommendations to any budding designers on how to receive feedback, or any tips on that?
I think that's a good way to rephrase it, because I think it's like, it's not more about the playtester giving good feedback. It's more about the designer on their end receiving that feedback and how they process it. Because, man, there's been some designers that I've playtested games of, and I don't want to play any of their games anymore, right? Like hey, it might have even been an okay game, and I just don't want to play their game anymore, because they make me feel as if what I just said was pointless, meaningless, or had no bearing on what they were going to do anyway. Because either obviously this isn't sorry, well, I was looking at that, but it's in a publisher's hand right now. I don't really want to mess with that right now, or just any sort of like. So, I guess the feedback I can give is this: if you're a designer and you put a game in front of people, you're going to be nervous. That's fine. Do it. Embrace that nervousness and hopefully get people to give you answers and feel nervous about what they might actually say, because It's good for someone to see that you're human. It's also good to see that your game needs help and you didn't just waste their time by putting it in front of them and then just being defensive the entire time.
Yeah.
Don't be defensive as much as you can, and like, the best way to handle somebody's stupid feedback, which is going to happen, you're going to get someone that says like, you should take these cards and you should make another deck and put them in this 5 stacks and then have this and that. Just listen, be polite, and really, like, just go, you know what, that sounds really good, and even fake like you're writing in a notebook. That's almost like the best thing. It's just fake,
I've heard people
like
say
you're
that.
doing
Yeah.
something. You're like, oh yeah. Because
It-
then
It's called active listening.
maybe you could just say later you play tested it out, it didn't work, right? But you could be like, yeah, sweet, and they'll play your game.
Oh, we're losing TC.
Oh, off the chains, off the chains.
Oh,
Oh,
both.
I think we lost Daryl too. Oh.
Ooh, this is bad.
Let's mute him and let's wrap up the show. Let's I
Oh,
think
there's
you-
D. Oh, no.
no, let's keep them muted and wrap up the show. Then we can ask them if they want to join us for the after show or not. Some great advice. Now we know not to trust if TC is writing down notes while we're playtesting with him. But no, the real practical, great advice. I really appreciate both of them being on the show. Clearly, we've had a million technical issues, and we're just going to have both Daryl and TC back on the show in the future, and get to hear about on Pub how it went. So, again, I want to thank them, even though they're not technically here. Hopefully,
I like Daryl's. Do you see Daryl's picture in the
Yeah,
bottom
he's
there?
like,
He's like, oh my
Not this
god.
again.
oh man, not technical difficulties. But I'll also give a plug for next week's episode. We have that fantastic question that Sen asked. Well, that was actually from Suze, and
Yeah.
Suzanne's actually on next week to talk about games and apps because she does a regular review show. So we thought it would be fantastic to have Suzanne on. And then as well, we have scheduled Brad Talton Jr. from Level 99 Games, and he'll be on, and he'll be telling us a few spoilers, a few apps that are coming down the pipeline for Level 99. So really excited about next week's show. Oh, it looks like we got TC and Daryl back.
Kinda.
Kind of. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. We were just, I'll tell you later, but we just talked lots of bad stuff about you while you were crashed. So thanks, and everyone, keep making great games, sharing them with others, and hopefully making the best game possible. Thanks. Have a good night.
See ya.